Hey everyone, Bob here, KD4BMG. The Radioddity QR20, that's what I'm holding in my hand. Small rig, fits in the palm of my hand, no problem. You've seen a few videos from me on this rig. How about a review? That's today on TheHOAHam. All right, so after you open your cardboard packaging or bubble wrap mailer that your QR20 arrives in, you're going to find this plastic box that has the radio and everything else in it. It's okay, it's average quality, it protects the radio. You get an instruction manual. This is a rather complex radio, has a lot of features. The manual is, let's just see here, the manual is 21 pages long. And more on that later. You get a power cord, no fuse. You get a USB-C connector. The USB-C obviously goes in the back of the rig, and then the other USB, I think that's a USB-A, would go into your computer. You get a microphone. It is tiny, right? Small. It looks like a toy, but I mean, it doesn't feel cheap. It keys up fine. I've had no complaints about the sound of my voice with this microphone, but it is small. The case of this thing is barely 4.5 wide by maybe 6.5 to 6.75. All right, so it's small. The screen on this is 1 1/2 inches by about 1 1/4. They fit a lot of information on that screen. The buttons are small, but I have sausage fingers and I have no difficulty in operating the radio with the push buttons. So let me first say I operate in single sideband exclusively. I don't work in digital modes. That's something that I haven't picked up in my repertoire yet. As I do develop those skills, I will basically do additional reviews on the QR20. It does have the capability, it does have an internal sound card, so those that are interested in utilizing digital modes, it is supposed to work. Today's review is going to be a good, the bad, and the ugly review, so let's just jump right into the ugly and work towards the good. So the first problem is that some of the initial units arrived with defects. I belong to a user group which has just a small population of individuals in it. And watching that user group, I know that there were a few people that had units arrive basically with keyboards locked, the inability to navigate to get the unit to function properly. My own radio arrived with a damaged screen. There was no screen protector on it. If you look at my quote unboxing video TheHOAHam style, meaning I got it from UPS. I tore it open as quickly as I could to try to get on the single sideband just to see how intuitive it was. And you'll see in that video I discover a screen that just isn't nice. And what's on the screen here in front of you is that screen. When it's on, you don't notice it. But when that radio is turned off, you can see that my screen has blemishes on it. No way that should have left the factory in that fashion. This needs to be captured at the QC department at the factory. The second thing is that at least a couple of us that live in the United States have had our radio show up with the incorrect ITU region programmed into the radio. I mean, that just shouldn't happen. They've shown us how to correct that, but we shouldn't have to correct that. Let me show you the evidence of that particular issue. Okay, it's pretty late in the evening here, so we're going to jump up to 40 meters. The buttons here, quite frankly, are a lot easier than you would think they are to use. I thought that perhaps I would mind it. I don't. I don't mind using these buttons at all. So let's just jump up to band. All right, now you got to navigate with your arrow buttons. Press the menu to select it. Okay, and there we are. You can probably see the little line underneath my 0. You can press the arrow key, and as you press the arrow key, you're basically navigating your different features and your frequencies, etc. And again, it's intuitive once you get to use it for a little while. Now, some people complain about, I'm already off topic, but some people complain about, you know, the button roulette, so to speak, with trying to find your frequency as opposed to having a VFO knob. It's not as annoying as you might think. So it has become almost second nature to me as I have used the radio. Would a VFO knob be easier? Yeah, it would. But that's not what they chose to do. It adds some size to the radio, and they wanted to keep it sleek and small. So it really becomes second nature to you once you use the radio. But now, back to the point at hand, incorrect ITU region. All right, I'm still in my band plan, right? KD4BMG, is this frequency in use? Did you see right up here? KD4BMG, is this frequency in use? Out of band, out of band. That's what you get. So, not cool, Radioddity. I live in the United States. I purchased my radio. You know where you shipped it to. The ITU region should be correct, right? So that's something you need to work on. So when your radio arrives and you unpackage it and you open up that plastic protective container and you turn it on, you get a locked screen, the initial screen. It's a static screen, and it basically tells you that this radio is a receive-only radio. Now, I have a problem with that, and I think you should too. Here's my problem with that. All right, so here we are on the Radioddity website. And if you are familiar with the Radioddity website, you come over to the Others category, click on HF transceivers, and here you go. Here are all of their HF products. I draw your attention to what I just stated out loud, HF transceivers. These are not receivers, these are transceivers. All right, and you click on the Radioddity QR20. Look at that. It's called a all-band, all-mode SDR transceiver, not receiver. Scroll down the page, and it's really a very well put together page as far as all the features that they put on display. Hopefully my scrolling isn't bothering you too much, making you feel like you're on a roller coaster. But now look where we are. Transmit frequency range. These are all of the frequencies in which I can transmit. So, Radioddity, why do I receive my radio with a lock screen on initial power up that tells me it is a receive-only device? And then you give me instructions to specifically go step by step by step to override what you have sent to me as a receive-only radio. Not real happy about that. So what I did then is I asked myself, well, is this FCC approved? Does this have an FCC accreditation? Well, that's hard to find on the Radioddity website. So what you want to do is Google it. Use your friend Google and go ahead and put it in here. Radioddity FCC. You can see I've already searched it. Accreditation. And let's see what we get. Accreditations, Radioddity. All right. So under the Radioddity brand name, tell me what is missing from that list. The Radioddity QR20. The QR20 is nowhere in this listing. Now, I asked Radioddity about this, and Radioddity assures me that they have received accreditation from the FCC and that they are reviewing it prior to posting it on their website. That was a few weeks ago that I had that conversation. So, you sell me a transceiver, you tell me what frequencies I can transmit on, you advertise it as a transceiver, but when I receive it, I'm being told that it is a receive-only device. I have to override your lock screen. And then, watch this. All right, bear with me a second. Let's get back to the radio. Let me make this a little larger. So let me turn it off. Watch what happens when I turn it back on again. It's going to happen quick. All right. I'll flash a photograph in here as well so you can see what just transpired there. I get a message every time I turn on my transceiver that it is only a receiver. So this is ugly. Radioddity, you need to get this fixed. I mean, I would highly recommend that you get this fixed. Listen, if you think I'm going to just trash this radio the whole time, I am not. I'm in love with this little radio. I want to like this radio. I want it to work. I feel like it's an experiment. I feel like I'm part of a science project, and I'm okay with that. But these are things that need to be addressed. All right, what's the fourth item on the list? Okay, I got ahead of myself. It was the recurring startup screen, receive only. I've already covered that. Let's go on to the next item. Okay, I'm getting way ahead of myself. I've already covered this as well. But here it is on a screen for you to, if you're jotting these notes down or the things that you want to refer back to and remember. Next item. Power cord, no fuse. I have an expensive radio. I want to protect it. Not a problem for me. I can take care of that, but it would be nice to have gotten a fuse in my power cord. Next up, no battery indicator, charge or status. So right now I have this plugged into my power supply. So when I turn off the radio, you would expect to see something to tell me that it's charging. It has an internal battery, so it would be nice to know that it's charging. Do you see a charge indicator? You don't, because there is no charge indicator. When I turn the power on, there also is no charge indicator. There is no indication whether I'm on external power or whether I'm on battery power. I guess you could say, well, yeah, there kind of is, Bob, and you just have to be a little bit more astute about that. So you can see right here that it says 7 volts. Actually, I'm not plugged into my power supply. So that's internal battery. We'll take care of that right now. So watch what happens when I go into external power. All right, now you can see I am up to 13.8 volts. All right, so I can see the amount of voltage that is available to my radio, but I cannot see if I am charging my battery. All right, next item to be concerned with. All right, it does not charge from the DC power interface. So right now, my power cord is plugged into the DC power interface in the back of the radio. And you would expect that that would charge the radio. It doesn't. It doesn't. You power the radio only through that port. You cannot charge through that port. Of course, there's nothing in the instructions to tell you that. And that was by trial and error that I eventually figured that out. And some others have posted, and watching their posts, I came to realize that. So if you're charging the internal battery, you have to use your USB-C cable to do that. And that's okay. It's just odd that I can't charge from both ports, and that if I could only charge from one, you would notify me of that so that I'm not wondering if there's something wrong with my radio. All right, what's the next item on the bad list? Okay, no reset function. Why do I call that bad? Well, so I have an FT991A here in my shack. It's right at my right hand. And I mean, I'll be honest, I'm a younger ham. I've only been a ham operator for about 2 years. I've immersed myself in the hobby. I love it. I'm interested in it for a lot of different reasons, from recreation to emergency preparedness. Well, the FT991A is a complicated radio, as all radios are. They're computers. And there have been times that I've fiddled around with some settings on my 991A, and I don't know if I did something. And I thought to myself, I'm just going to go and reset this thing back to factory. And you may laugh at that. You may be beyond the years where you need to rely on that type of a reset, but I've done it a time or two on my 991A. And as I've already described, you know, someone has jokingly said that, you know, working with the Radioddity QR20 is like playing button roulette. It's a series of short press and long press to get to the features. Now, don't trash the radio because it uses a short press and a long press and it has buttons. As I just said, the 991A can be complicated. If you have an FT891, that menu set is complicated. So there's nothing wrong with a radio, you know, that has multiple layers of menus and you've got to press buttons to get what you want. But if I screw up the QR20, what am I going to do? I don't have the ability to reset it. So if I did something, like I said, I don't work digital, I don't know digital modes yet. And if I somehow stumble into a digital feature and I cue something up in one of the settings and it's now controlling the radio and I don't know what to do about it, I can't reset. And I think it's just natural that we should have a reset function on our radios. So next up is just some incorrect instructions for the power and tune indicator in the instruction manual. There is a lot of information on that screen. If you're a newer ham, you are going to get confused by some things. So here is something. You will see that items 10 and actually items 11 and 12. Item 11 is called the Tune Enable display and item 12 is called the Power display. All right? Does anybody see the problem with that? Well, number 11 is actually the Power display and number 12 is the Tune Enable display, right? I get it, it's minor, all right? But what other instructions are incorrect at that point if we can't get something as basic as that correct? Okay, and sticking on the theme of instructions, this instruction manual is really insufficient. I mean, this is a complicated radio. And by that I just mean it's a computer and it has a lot of features, a lot of capabilities. It just came on the market. So there's not a large user base out there that has lots of instruction videos and talk groups, etc., to help you through learning and understanding what the radio can do. And so now what I have is a 21-page manual on tiny paper that really doesn't give me sufficient information to know the full capabilities of the radio, or am I using it correctly? How do I get the most out of it? So that is something that definitely needs to be improved. And then finally, to close out the bad, it's recommended in one of the documents that, hey, here you guys can use a USB wheel. For those of you that don't want to be doing VFO by pushing those little arrows up and down and side to side, which again, I said I've become used to. I can understand why some of you think that would be terrible and a nuisance. I guess if you're surfing up and down the band constantly, it would be. You'll wear those buttons out at some point and a VFO knob would be nicer. And they suggest that such a thing is going to be available or that you should use one. But there's no recommendation of what to use and what features to turn on and where to go in the settings to enable it. So the logic of the mode button on USB upper sideband and lower sideband, it just doesn't make any sense. So if you watched my unboxing video, TheHOAHam style, where I said, hey, this is going to be a rough video. I'm just going to open this thing up from the Mr. UPS guy, and I'm going to see how quickly I can receive and transmit on single sideband. And you saw me get stumped at this point. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So right here is your mode. Right now you can see we're in lower sideband. So watch what happens as I cycle through the various modes. It's all making sense, right? Wait a second. Upper sideband. We're in, 40 meters. This is lower sideband. Oh, I must have missed it. Oh, no. I'm caught in the loop. Wait a second. Upper sideband. This is lower sideband. Where's lower sideband? You see what I'm doing? I'm cycling through all the options. Short press, mind you. You can see this is all short press. And there's no lower sideband. No lower sideband. Again, if you go to that video where I'm doing my original unboxing, you saw me I had to get out the instructions. And I said, this video is no instructions. I'm going to go from package to power to single sideband transmit and receive. I had to get out the manual or stop the video. And that's what I said. The video's either over or you get out the manual. I got out the manual. Guess what? Long press. All right. So all of those modes are short press. Short press, short press, short press. And all of a sudden, we go to upper sideband. And to get the lower sideband, I got to go long press. What's the logic in that? You already had me thinking. There's a short press, short press, short press. Lower sideband should be one additional short press. You know they had to program it in to make it a long press. Why did you not program it in to go to lower sideband with the next short press? Am I being nitpicky? These things, we want them to be logical, right? We want them to be intuitive. We don't want to have to pick up a manual to figure out how to go to mode when we already know how to go to mode. Short press, short press, short press. That long press shouldn't be there. It's minor, but you know what? It's not good, right? I've mentioned that there's a short press and a long press, a short hold, long hold. And it's basically worthless for tuning, doing your VFO tuning, and it's non-functional for volume. Here's what I mean by that. So let's just tune up. So let's go over, I'm on 7.203. So I can press the button once and you can see that I'm adjusting my frequency. Now, if I long press, I hold it down, it's going to adjust the frequency faster. But when you let it go, it's going so fast, you don't stop anywhere near where you want to stop. All right, let's just go down a little bit first. All right, let's say that I want to stop at 7,250. I'm going to try. All right, I went to 270, and I know that it goes fast. My point being, well, let's go down to 7.175. By the time you get to where you want to be and you realize you're there and you let go of the button, it's going so fast, it's worthless. The long press on the VFO adjustment is not usable, so they could slow that down. Or you could tell me where I can get a USB, VFO wheel. Okay, so what about on my AF gain? All right, there you can see I'm at volume 13. Let's long press so we can go up quickly. I am long pressing. Do you see what happened? Nothing. So long press doesn't work on volume. I'm holding. Nothing. All right, so it's worthless for volume. Let's take the volume down. Get out of AF gain. All right, next up on the list. So the FDR software is clunky at best. So I started to do a video where I downloaded the software. I was going to go through it cold turkey with you. And it wasn't long before I scrapped that video. I mean, I got the software to download. I was able to get it to talk to the radio some. But I use SDR Uno with an SDR play, so you know what I'm used to. All right, high end, top end, good performance. I just wasn't even worthy. I wasn't even willing to show you that video because I just felt like this is not ready for prime time. And of course, there's no documentation on it. So if you go to the website, Radioddity is touting this as a great feature of the QR20, and it should be a great feature of the QR20. So if you're not out doing a POTA or portable and you want to set this thing up in your shack, and you've got that little 1.5 by 1.25 inch screen, it would be great to have your SDR driving this radio, giving you full rig control. That's where this needs to be, and this is where Radioddity needs to take it. Not there yet. Not ready for prime time. And given my experience with that, I didn't even bother taking the time to download to put the app on my iPhone, which of course is not available in the Apple App Store, right? So Won't even go into that right now because I chose not to download that. All right, so as I've already said, I think this is a cool little radio. All I've done, though, is talk about the ugly and the bad. Let's talk about the good, because this radio has a lot of things going for it. I mean, first and foremost, it's a shack in the box. It's UHF, VHF, and HF. That's what my FT991A is, right? So that has that going for it. I mean, it's a quarter of the size of my FT991A and a quarter of the weight. So it's a shack in a box in a small package. I mean, that's exciting. That's something to make this radio be something that people should be looking for as I really want this, right? All right, I've hit on size a number of times, right? I just compared it to the size of my FT991A. You saw me measure it at the beginning of the radio. I mean, it's tiny. It's small. So shack in the box, easy to transport, and I mean, to me, that's something that it has going for it. So to me, this is one of the greatest features of this radio. On internal battery, 10 watts. External, 20 watts. There are very few QRP rigs out there that go at 20 watts. The IC705 doesn't go at 20 watts, up to 10 watts maximum with external power supply. Now, I'm not saying this is a contender to take down the IC705. Don't think that's where I'm trying to go with this, but 20 watts, all right? So that it has that going for it. Internal battery, I just mentioned that. All right, not all these QRP rigs have internal batteries. The QR20 has an internal battery. It has that going for it. How about an antenna tuner? Let me go ahead and show you how that works. All right, tune button. All right, I'm on a 73-foot end-fed wire sloper that comes to a Chameleon Antenna's matching unit. On 20 meters, this thing tunes fast, a second and a half, and you probably saw that there on 40 meters, what, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, and we're tuned up. So the visibility of the screen is pretty good. Now, remember, it's small. I did a POTA activation, and I was giving out signal reports based off of what I was hearing because I just simply couldn't read the information that was coming across on the screen out in the daylight. It's not that the screen wasn't visible, it was just too small. I'm older, I need glasses to see, and I can't read things that small anymore. Now, with my glasses on, I mean, I can literally look here and I can see my S meter, I can see my SWR meter, I see my mode indicator. I mean, I see everything clearly. So I'm just trying to say it's a clear screen, a ton of information on that screen that you need to operate. And quite frankly, that's a plus of this radio. For the size of the screen and the size of the radio, you're getting a lot of information feedback in how you should be operating. You see also it has a real-time spectrum with waterfall, and I'm telling you, it's pretty good. So the feedback here again, that you need to operate the radio and scan around frequencies, this is a good feature on this radio. There's Bluetooth, supposedly to be able to operate this with a cell phone. You should be able to, I think, control sound and your VFO via a phone app. Again, I haven't tried that yet because the SDR software wasn't far enough along that I wanted to put myself through that. But here's a future opportunity for Radioddity to capitalize on using all of the technology that we have with us when we go out to activate. Has a sound card so you can do digital modes, and it also has a SWR sweep feature. This is a station over in Italy. I'm trying to show you the sound quality. It's got a loudspeaker on it. Quite frankly, for the size of the radio and the size of the speaker, it's impressive. I'm going to turn it up here pretty loud. All right, you can see I was at volume 25. I don't know what you're hearing from my microphone. I would never run it at that. I would run it comfortably at level 16. I can hear what's going on. This is what I would run it at if I were sitting here in my shack. And here you're seeing your spectrum display and waterfall as well. All right, so the sound quality of the speaker, quite frankly, for the size that it is, it's freaking amazing. That's good. This thing rocks in single sideband. So I did a POTA activation. I have a video on that entitled Can It POTA? And I'm telling you, I had a blast with this thing. I had only had the radio for a brief period of time. It was shortly after my unboxing. And I was going to do a POTA. I took my X5105, my IC705, and I grabbed this just for the fun of it. And this was the first radio I took out of the truck and set up. And it absolutely killed it. Good sound quality. I was getting good signal reports back. Nobody had anything negative to say about my sound quality coming through that tiny, teeny, weeny little microphone. So this thing rocks on single sideband. It has that going for it for sure. So the final item on the good list is the price. Now, it's not a cheap radio, granted. But when you compare it to the IC705, it's half the price and twice the watts, and it has an internal antenna tuner. Now, am I going to sell my IC705 and keep this? No, I'm going to keep them both, right? I mean, they're really not in the same playing field. But this is a compelling little rig. It's interesting. I said a lot of bad things about it. I said some ugly things about it. There's a lot of good things going for this radio. Radioddity has picked it up. I believe that Radioddity will continue to develop this radio, but they really need to get the uglies taken care of. Let's jump to the final two questions. Would I buy it? Would I recommend it? Well, would I buy it? I think we know the answer to that question. I did. All right. This has not been provided to me by Radioddity free of charge. All right. So I'm giving you my opinion for something I paid good money for. Would I recommend it? That depends on who you are. If you are a new ham that is new to the hobby and you are not technically inclined, you have no engineering background, and you do not have a background in electronics, I would not recommend this radio for you. It's not quite ready for you yet. If you are a new ham and you're technically inclined and you want to be part of a project that has future growth, in other words, you want to be part of the solution and you want to be recommending to the manufacturer, other features they could develop, but then maybe this rig is for you. If you're an experienced ham and you just want to break out your IC7300, your 991A, or the rigs that cost 5 times what those two do, and you don't want to tinker, not for you. You're an experienced ham and you enjoy tinkering, you enjoy learning, and you want to be part of the future of the development of this teeny, tiny, sexy, cool little radio, then perhaps this is for you. Go buy it, use it, give some feedback to Radioddity, join a users group, learn how to use it, make recommendations for improvement. So I hope you enjoyed this, friend. This has been a labor of love for me. I've enjoyed working with this rig over the last several weeks since I purchased it. We're going to put this out there as a review so people can kind of get an idea of what they'll be getting themselves into. There aren't many reviews out there yet or a lot of information on the radio. So I hope this helped you. Best wishes, friend. Talk to you soon. 73.